morning.
Really good to speak to you this morning. I thought you'd be an excellent person to talk about this. The more I read, and obviously this atrocity that happened, 1,400 innocent people killed, Israel has absolutely the sovereign right to defend itself. The flip side of that, of course, is that Hamas are cowards in Gaza. Israel has gone in. Netanyahu is saying there is no way we are going to back down. We're not going to have a ceasefire because that would empower Hamas. It would allow them to regroup. But at the same time, I'm really mindful there are innocent civilians in Gaza who have been told to move south. We heard from the IDF yesterday saying, well, it's their fault. They need to move south. If they don't, they're going to be in serious trouble. Where do you stand on this?
Well, there are 240 Israeli hostages also inside Gaza who need to be rescued. And we are reading all sorts of different kinds of propaganda. This story was alerted to me by our producer Gabriella from the Huffington Post, saying that there is a growing column of American Jewish people. It's not growing.
Well, let me just tell you, because I saw this article, I gave it to Gabriella. It is a Huffington Post article. There are 7.5 million American Jews in total in the United States. Now, the article, and it is really interesting, and I've heard this from people who've called into this programme saying, I'm Jewish, but I don't support the way Netanyahu is going on about this. This goes on to say, a vocal and growing minority is speaking out, often in conflict with their close friends and family. They're campaigning for a ceasefire. There's a Brooklyn-based rabbi who says, I cannot actually condone what Netanyahu is doing. It's a very long article. And they talk also about they're deeply concerned that what Israel is actually doing amounts to genocide.
Well, all I can say to that is an empty vessel makes the largest noise. This is this is a sort of disrespectful, I think, a minority view of diaspora Jews, particularly in the United States. There has been a very sad growing schism between a narrow column of American Jews and the state of Israel, and it's now fixated on Netanyahu. Let's be absolutely clear about this. The resolve of Jewish people in Israel, near 100%, is to rescue the hostages, bring them home, and get rid of the armaments which make Hamas the Islamist threat, not just to the state of Israel, but to the actual whole world. We are seeing it in this country. And if British people don't see that this is their fight too, it's time that they woke up. This is a very, very serious crossroads for the Western world.
I agree with that. And of course, as I keep saying, we absolutely believe in the right for Israel to fight back. At the same time, I think the US, the UK, as we know, we abstained in the UN. What ultimately should happen here? I keep asking, what is the end game? What do they want to achieve? Now, it has been made very clear that Israel is not to have control over Gaza if and when Hamas is destroyed. But what do you see as the end game? What would be mission accomplished, to use George Bush's words?
Well, I'm going to defer to my learned friend, Dr. Inat Wilf, who is one of the clearest thinkers on Israel. She is based there, a former member of the Knesset. And she tweeted this: Israel should definitely agree to a ceasefire to end the war. And these should be the 4 conditions to do so. Number 1, complete and immediate release of all the kidnapped Israeli hostages.
Yeah.
We understand there are 240 or so.
Yeah.
Number 2, full and unconditional immediate release of those people, full and unconditional surrender and disarmament of Hamas. And that is a military campaign. They are not going to hand those armaments and tunnels and other such criminals over to whichever international court that there might be. Number 3, handing over the perpetrators of the October the 7th massacres to justice. Again, that will not happen. And number 4, this is a critical part, the abandonment of the from the river to the sea ideology, because this amounts to the genocide and mass expulsion from their homeland of 7.2 million Jewish people. Mm. Now, if Israel is blocked from defeating Hamas, it would be the world's greatest victory for Islamic fundamentalism, and it will pave the way for jihadists and their sympathizers in the West to align with the armies of Mohammed and attack Britain, America, France, and Germany. David and Renee, I can't state it any more clearly than that. I deeply regret the military campaign. Of course, this is the fifth war that Israel has faced up to against Hamas. And again, I have said this before, every death on both sides is the responsibility of Hamas.
I mean, it's interesting, isn't it, when you look at what Antonio Gutierrez said about suffocating occupation of Gaza. I think many people found that incredibly offensive. Your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, he's the Secretary General of the United Nations, and he's there to stop war. He is apparently, allegedly, the world's leading international politician, but he seems to be hand in glove with the NGOs and sympathizers of terrorism. He's either a useful idiot or a vindictive person on the wrong side of history. I don't know which, but he's in the wrong job, and Israel's called for his resignation, and he hasn't gone.
Just in terms of the end state of this, I mean, the geopolitics is very complicated. My understanding is that in 2000, Israel offered Gaza and 73% of the West Bank. That was rejected by Arafat. In 2005, we know that Israel withdrew and took the Jewish families out of Gaza. There was a blockade imposed, and again, another deal tried to be done in 2008, where Israel offered 94% of the West Bank and additional land adjacent to Gaza. What do you see as a peaceful solution? Is it a two-state solution, which is what is being mooted by the US?
Well, the two-state solution is not on at the moment because Israel does not have a reliable peace partner in Hamas, or indeed in the failed Palestinian Authority over in Judea and Samaria. So a war has to be fought and a new Palestinian Authority needs to be created. There was great hope, wasn't there, between the United States and Saudi Arabia, and it's time that the Gulf states, who are either actively in peace and normalization with Israel or under the counter like Saudi with Israel, to step up to the plate and create the terms by which a Palestinian leadership that is responsible can lead to a peace. I was at Kerem Shalom, which is one of the main border crossings between Israel and Hamas, and I go back to the ceasefire, October the 6th, and it was active. There were thousands and thousands of Gazans, literally thousands of Gazans, coming into Israel and working on a daily basis. This was an attempt to engage the Gazan economy between Israel and Hamas. And I saw it for myself. I was deeply worried about it. And I'm just a layman. I was just someone visiting. And of course, it was shattered by the ending of what effectively was a healthy ceasefire on October the 7th by this brutal massacre. And unfortunately, it's come to an end. Israel needs to finish the job. It is a disaster because Israel has kicked the can into the future. And I think one of the worst mistakes in retrospect was that in 2021, the last Gaza war, which was just a matter of 2.5 years ago, Israel said that it had contained the Hamas threat at that point. But the victory, I'm afraid to say, was on Hamas because on the last day of that conflict, they still fired rockets into Israel. We didn't dismantle them as far as the West is concerned, and now we have paid a really terrible price for this final war with Hamas.
Can I just bring you back to the UK now? And in terms of the march that is being organised today, many Jewish people feel very frightened in this country. We also saw, there's a story this morning also about a school, a private school, that has been daubed with graffiti as well, anti-Jewish graffiti. We have Armistice Day next weekend. Should we ban any pro-Palestinian march next weekend?
We should keep them away from one of the most sacred days in British folklore, if that's the word. You know, it's been going on since the end of the First World War. We salute every British soldier and colonial soldier, every Commonwealth soldier. It's a deeply moving ceremony. And, you know, we see the Prime Minister and the Leader of the Opposition, all the stakeholders in British society coming together and laying wreaths at the cenotaph. This is a unifying cause for the British people. And quite frankly, anyone on the Palestinian side, with their mass support, is desecrating that, and the police need to keep them apart. I don't know about ban them or whatever, but we can't stop them. They're in stations every night, disgracing themselves with this. I don't know. It's disloyal to our country. I couldn't countenance or dream of it. So it really must be kept apart. It will make people extremely angry, and they, we should defend our rights, and it starts on that Remembrance Sunday. I can't believe it. It needs to be defended.